right, and welcome to the Marigold Standard, your weekly audio source of all things Dream Star Fighting Marigold. I'm your host, Rob Goodwin, and I'm joined as ever by Mr. Matt Turner. And Matt, when a door closes, another one opens. We may have finished the 5-star Grand Prix, but that just means that we're starting the Dream Star Grand Prix, doesn't it?
One Grand Prix to the other, my man, and the happy days are ahead of us because we finished, yes, an absolutely fantastic 5-star Grand Prix from Stardom, and here we are rocking and rolling, getting ready to review the first two shows from Marigold's Dream Star Grand Prix, brother, and I'm super excited. I'm also super excited for our new segment here on the Marigold Standard, A Gaze at Giulia, as we will take a look at Giulia's foray over here in the United States as she has begun her WWE NXT career. My man, how's everything with you? How's the weather there over in England and everything on the up and up? Or what's going on, brother?
Yeah, everything's good, man. Everything's good. There's not a lot to. Obviously, we recorded yesterday, which means that, of course, because we recorded yesterday, big news dropped immediately afterwards, as is the gimmick, keeping that gimmick alive. I like to think that we almost prompt breaking news. I don't know if it's because Tokyo Sport comes out on a Wednesday night and we just miss everything that happens in Tokyo Sport. I don't know what it is, but we are keeping that dream alive. But as you pointed out before we came on air, we have now got two shows to try and catch that news. So, yeah, at least that's happened. But other than that, yeah, everything is good. Gearing myself up to go, like I say, and watch Noah, which sidetracks me, or segues me, should I say, into talking about that match a little bit later on, Marigold versus Marvelous, that took place on the N1 Victory, which, again, is going to be very, very exciting to see Kirsty experiencing her first taste of Japanese wrestling, her live Japanese wrestling. I can't wait to feed back and tell you exactly how she reacted to it. She's going to be repping some Stardom Cast merch as well, which is lovely, and is going to be giving out business cards as well. So if you see her, say hello. But how are you, my friend? How's everything across your side of the pond?
Really good. I mean, it's a beautiful day here. We're pretty much end of summer in northeastern Pennsylvania. It's like mid-70s, nice little breeze, absolutely gorgeous. But no, man, things are really well. I know you're excited for the Pro Wrestling Noah show, and then I will be wrestling at a Comic-Con this weekend with one Andy Header, my good tag partner, and we will also be handing out some business cards as well. So that just goes to show you how international and worldwide the Stardom cast is that business cards will be handed out not only at a Pro Wrestling Noah show over there in England, but also in the Poconos, Pennsylvania, for a comic book convention. So now, brother, everything's really, really well. You know me, my man, bad days don't exist, and I hope our listeners are having a fantastic day as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Bad days don't exist. And apart from last night, when I logged onto Twitter and saw that I got about 1 million notifications, I was like, oh my God, what has happened? Because I'm British, and therefore if I see I've got a load of notifications, that can only mean one thing, and that is the downfall of the entire planet. And it felt like that, Matt. I'm not going to lie, because obviously we logged on to Twitter last night after recording and found out that Mayu Iwatani has officially retired from... I'm not going to leave it there because I realised I'd left a pause there and I was like, I'm going to kill someone.
Dramatic pause.
Yeah, she's... yeah, I'm not going to tempt fate. I'm not even going to joke about it. But in an interview with Tokyo Sport, Mayu Iwatani has announced a retirement from 5-star Grand Prix competition. This was brought to my attention initially by Scotty Wrestling, and then, like I say, a whole host of notifications. Thank you, Colin, for consoling me whilst I was crying into my Ben and Jerry's. But she's basically come out in this interview, and these translations are courtesy of Mira Wrestling on Twitter. This year, I was in top condition and gave it my all, and yeah, I lost. I don't know if I'll be in better condition next year than I was this year. Because I have such strong feelings about this year, I will not be appearing in the 5-star Grand Prix next year. I will be retiring from the 5-star Grand Prix. Now, obviously, she is the most tenured wrestler in Stardom history. She's wrestled over 900 matches for the company. She holds the record for the most consecutive 5-star Grand Prix appearances with 11, the most 5-star Grand Prix victories with 50. She won the tournament in 2018 when she defeated Utami Hayashishita in the final. There's a lot to unpack here. Now, the first thing to unpack is that sometimes Tokyo Sport can be used as a vehicle for kayfabe. And sorry, Kirsty's tying off a cat outside my door, and I thought she was telling me off. Obviously, not yet. I imagine that is to come sooner rather than later. But yeah, it can be used as a vehicle for kayfabe. So maybe, and this is me grasping, maybe that's something that we can. This is Mayu Iwatani as well. Mayu Iwatani has been retiring from wrestling since 2016, and that hasn't materialized. So who knows? The wider sort of implications of what this means, we've had a significant amount of chatter on social media that this is pretty much the writing on the wall for Mayu when she's out of the company to Marigold at the first opportunity. It's an interesting one. There's been a lot of discussion. Like I say, Mayu, her name is trending still currently on Twitter as we record on Thursday night. It was an interesting bombshell. The timing was certainly very interesting. However, aside from winning the tournament, I feel like if you're gonna go out of 5-star competition, going out after this tournament where she was almost runaway the MVP of this tournament, that's the way to go out, isn't it, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, you look at match quality wise, this is one of the greatest 5-star runs of all time. And considering the fact of some of the great runs we've had with, Julia and Hazuki in the 2022 tournament, Sherry in 21, and then this one, not only Micah, Azumi, and then Mayu, we had some really all-time runs all in one tournament. And if this is her final 5-star Grand Prix, you're absolutely right, partner. This is what a better way to go out than just a litany of just must-see matches. And again, we don't know. I mean, considering the fact that the 5-star Grand Prix just ended a few days ago, and then she's like, yeah, I'm retired from the 5-star. So that if it is true, first of all, you're right. Well, number one, it's Mayu. 2, it's pro wrestling, so you don't know. And it is Tokyo Sports, and they are a kayfabe, publication. So who knows? Maybe that's Mayu trying to leverage maybe to get her better contract, which, Mazel tov, good for her. Hopefully, if that's what happens and then she returns the 5-star in 2025 or in 2026, it makes it a bigger deal. But really, who knows what Mayu is going to do? And yes, as soon as that article from Tokyo Sports did come out, everyone's like, that's it. It's a done deal. She's going back to Rossi, a book EO versus Mayu for Summer Destiny 2026. It's in the bag. It's like, pump the brakes, everyone. Pump the brakes, because you don't know what she's going to do. We don't know when her contract is up. Mayu did, maybe about 2 months ago, she did come out in that one interview that she did with Saida sitting on the couch next to her, basically saying the reason why she chose to stay in Stardom is because she's the Stardom icon. And I was thinking about this the other day, buddy. She did say that another reasons why she decided to stay is she felt like her debt to Rossi Ogawa was paid, but yet she still owes a debt to Bushi Road. I understand Mayu's thinking there, but where I'm coming from, and I'm sure you'll back me up, and probably pretty much everybody else, Mayu doesn't owe anything to anybody. Whether it's Rossi, whether it's the Bushi Road, me, you, and she doesn't owe anything to anybody. If she was to retire tomorrow, which we hope she doesn't, but if she was, I mean, what a great legacy that she has left behind. Not only that, but she has made the fans, me, you, everybody else, so happy because of just the output of wrestling that she's been able to put on and just the output of just like the backstage stuff that she does and the press conference that she does. Like, Mayu doesn't owe anything to anybody. So whether she stays in Stardom, whether she just wants to do, doesn't want to do the 5-star Grand Prix, whether she takes time off. Again, we saw in that tag match that we reviewed just the other day for Sariism how just insane her neck was taped up, and she's still taking top rope power bombs and German suplexes right onto her head. So Mayu can do what Mayu wants to do. She owes nothing to nobody. Mayu only owes to Mayu. So if she wants to do what Mina's doing and wrestle all over the world, that's completely up to her. It's her choice. But at the end of the day, nobody can say Mayu owes anything to anybody just because of just the phenomenal matches she has put out, not only of her entire career, but especially this year alone. You know, the Shuri match, the Mina match, the tag matches, the Artist of Stardom championship match, this entire 5-star Grand Prix run that she's had, the Sari match. And then, correct me if I'm wrong, partner, in the same article, she did say that she wants to raise the prestige of the IWGP championship and wants to defend it against Hashimoto, against Sari again, against Veni, against Micah, and against the Zumi. So if those are matches that we have coming up between now and whenever, it's like, okay, you know, that's all. Who doesn't want to see those matches? You know, again, who do I give my money to? You know, so. And again, if this is her basically saying goodbye to the 5-star Grand Prix, she's giving Stardom and Bushiroad a year to have somebody to try to fill her shoes. Now, very much like Kyrie in 2017 and Io in 2018, nobody's going to fill those shoes. But regardless, considering the fact of we saw the Micah build, the Tam build, the Sai Kamatani build, the Azumi build, and the Starlight Kid build, even though Mayu is, in my opinion, and I know you agree with me, partner, the greatest female wrestler of all time, and probably having her best in-ring career this year with still 4 months to go, Stardom next year is going to be absolutely fine in the 5-star Grand Prix. But if this is the end of Mayu in the 5-star Grand Prix, we thank you, and absolutely right, partner. I'm going to talk all back to what you said in the beginning of this little segment. No better way to go out than probably the greatest single year run as far as match quality wise goes. You know, the Natsupoi match, the Micah match, the Azumi match. I mean, everything. The Tam, the Momo, I can go through it. But when it comes down to it, probably the greatest 5-star Grand Prix wrestler of all time.
Yeah, it's hard to disagree with that, especially when, you know, you go back to those statistics. And, you know, this year, her match with Natsupoi, her match with Micah, her match with Momo Watanabe, her match with Tam, her match with Sayurida, it reads like a best of collection, but it was all done within a space of 3 weeks. She is just that talented. But, you know, also, we've seen that she is taped up. You know, there was a lot of tape in that Sari match, a lot of tape. And, you know, I don't know how to broach this subject, but she is 32 next year. So, you know, you can't continue to wrestle at that higher level for the rest of your career. And it's an interesting sort of debate as to what the perfect time to leave is. Do you leave at the height, or do you wrestle a couple of years, potentially run the risk of sullying your legacy? I don't think that would happen with Mayu, but we have seen it happen with other wrestlers. And then go out on, you know, without anywhere near as much fanfare. I think Mayu has gone the right way here, if this is what will happen. Of course, you've got to take into account the fact that she has been discussing the IWGP Women's Championship, who she wants to defend it against, and the fact that she has been talking about, in this same article, about upping the prestige of that belt and the prestige of Stardom worldwide as well. That's mentioned. Now, I know that there was one particular person, and I'm really sorry I can't remember who it was, on Twitter that pointed out that yesterday Stardom changed their profile picture from the picture of Mayu from the poster of her movie to just the generic A again. I think that might just be coincidence, if I'm perfectly honest.
Holy jeez. So you watch too many episodes of that Jesse Ventura conspiracy show.
I think that's what it is.
20 years ago. Holy jeez. That's a stretch. I'm so sorry. I don't mean to laugh. But oh my goodness.
Imagine.
Calm down. Mayu shows up next week at the Dream Star, wins the whole thing, and defends the IWGP Championship, and then spray paints it like Hulk Hogan did Marigold on it. NWO.
Imagine. I mean, to be fair, I don't trust Mayu's aim after she kicked the wrong person in that tag match.
Twice.
It's so funny. If you were a betting man, Mr. Turner, with sort of everything that Mayu has said over the past year, both, you know, alluding to staying in Stardom and alluding to, you know, potential ventures outside of Stardom, let's put it that way. Where does your money lie? Do you think that Mayu is staying in Stardom past the end of her contract? Or do you think that she will. This is sort of the precursor to her potentially leaving and going over to Marigold.
Up until this article came out, I would say it's like 75% she was staying. Obviously, 25% that she's going. Now I'm more like 55% that she's staying, 45% she's going, just because of the leverage Bushiroad is going to have financial wise. From what I understand, I don't think Rossi has too many financial investors, and ultimately it's a business. And because of Mayu, you mentioned it, next year she'll be 32, which is still relatively young, but considering the hard miles and bumps she's put on her body, who knows how many big money making years she has left. Bushiroad can obviously write her a bigger check than Rossi can. And not only that, but you have the AEW working relationship, you have the CMLL working relationship. They can literally say, hey, Mayu, if you want to, you can go and work for other companies, very much like Momo, Mina, Hanako, so on and so forth. If you want to, you can take some time off, or you can just do 1 or 2 shows a month and go overseas and defend that championship belt, in a Boston, a Philadelphia, Chicago for a New Japan Strong show. So I think, again, before this article came out, considering the fact that she was very adamant of staying in Stardom, and now the fact that she did say that she's retired from the 5-star, maybe swings a little bit towards the way of maybe going to Marigold, and considering the fact they have this relationship with WWE, and maybe, one more time, my man, to quote your favorite band, Blink-182, one more time, we might get that Mayu Io match, or Mayu and Kyrie, or some sort of tag match, or something like that. Sometime maybe next year. So I'm not sure. And actually, as I'm talking, I'm almost positive. But on the press conference right before the 5-star started, Mayu did say this was her last 5-star. So she did say, this is my last attempt to try to win the 5-star Grand Prix. So really, this shouldn't come too much of anybody's surprise that she has retired from the 5-star Grand Prix. Again, maybe she goes over to Marigold for a year, comes back to Stardom. Maybe she's in Stardom another 2 years and then goes to the Marigold. I mean, who knows? Again, most of these Japanese contracts are only 1 year, and it's Mayu. She can write her ticket and does what she wants. So, and again, this could be Mayu just outplaying everybody's hand and saying, I'm just going to use this as a marketing strategy or a negotiation tactic to get more money from Bushiroad, and why not? I mean, the houses are full. They're making more money on ad revenue. I mean, why not? We have seen the market price for talent go up, and rightfully so. I mean, a lot of these wrestlers are getting paid big bucks, and they should be. They're away from their families. They're on the road. They're dieting. They have to make sure they look good. They're on TV. They're putting their bodies at risk for our entertainment and making these companies lots of money, especially Mayu. So ultimately, wherever Mayu goes, 1, I hope she's happy, and 2, I hope she's getting as much money as possible because she's damn sure earned it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think if Bushiroad were to throw money at a particular wrestler, you would bet your bottom dollar that it would be Mayu. From a Marigold standpoint, you do have that relationship with the WWE, and the potential of Mayu wrestling her best friend in Io Sky that one final time. That lore is something that Bushiroad can't offer. So, something else as well, just to play devil's advocate for a moment, Mayu has done everything in Stardom. Like, she's won everything there is to win, and that was sort of the story going into her defeat of Mercedes Moné with the IWGP Women's Championship. She's done everything apart from the IWGP Women's Championship. She's won that now. She's held it for, damn near 500 days. So once she drops that, what else is there to do? And you're absolutely right from a Stardom perspective. And again, all of this is hearsay. We could hear tomorrow, because we've recorded today, that Mayu has signed a brand new contract for 25 years and is on 35 billion yen a year. Who knows?
With TNA.
Imagine.
Like, what?
Where did they get all this money? But I don't know. It's an interesting one, certainly. And again,
one thing I want to throw at you real quick, buddy. You mentioned Mayu's done everything in Stardom, and again, it's not like she can't do it over again and make it something completely different. Another Mayu red belt run with this roster would be fantastic, considering the first one got cut short because she was injured. The second one wasn't really what it was supposed to be because of COVID. So you have that there. But here's something else too. It would freshen up the roster over at Marigold. She would be able to wrestle the Miku Aonos, the Natsumi Showzukis, the Misa Matsuis, a brand new Victoria Yuzuki. So maybe that's something she's looking at as well as opportunity to wrestle new talent. Might not just, regardless where Mayu goes, she's going to get paid.
Oh God,
don't get me wrong, but it might be like, okay, I'm going to go to work for Marigold. I'm not going to get paid as much as I would over with Stardom. And again, that we don't know. But at the same time, it's like maybe she'll be fulfilled in a different way, but considering the fact that she could wrestle different talent that she's never wrestled before. So that's a possibility as well, partner. Again, regardless, we just hope that she's happy. We hope that she stays safe. And we're going to be here for it regardless, because it's Mayu and it's, one of our favorite wrestlers ever. And again, probably having the best year of her career, which is saying something.
I think from a Stardom standpoint as well, if the worst were to happen and they were to lose Mayu Iwatani, whilst you've got such a stacked roster that you can fall back on, losing Mayu is a devastating blow, certainly because, people come in to see Mayu. She is the face, she is the icon of Stardom for a reason. But, and you've mentioned it, like when you've got the Starlight Kid, the Azumi, the Suzuki, the Maikas, the Tams, the Natsupois, the Hazukis, who can step up to fill that position, or, can at least elevate themselves into that main event scene, it's potentially not as bad. Well, it isn't as bad as when Io and Kairi left, and it was a case of, oh my God, who do we turn to now? And you've got Mayu and Momo, and then nobody. So they are certainly in a better position in terms of Marigold. Marigold, I imagine, are already looking ahead to Summer Destiny 2025. They drew 3,058 people to Ryogoku. How are we going to draw a number like that again? Obviously, a lot of that is off the back of Io Sky coming back, wrestling in Japan for the first time since 2018. How can we get to that number again? If you were to advertise Mayu Iwatani versus Io Sky one more time, those tickets would skyrocket. I guarantee it. It's an interesting sort of purgatory we find ourselves in, because it has left the door open on both sides. But anyway, regardless of that, obviously, the main thing is that Mayu remains happy. And I know that sounded sarcastic, but genuinely, that is the most important thing. I think individuals' happiness can sometimes get lost in fans' desire to see wrestlers wrestling for other companies and things like that. The wrestler's happiness and well-being has to come first. So whatever Mayu chooses, and again, this could all be smoke with absolutely no fire, and she's just staying with Stardom, and she's just decided, you know what, I want that summer month off. I want to go on holiday. I want to spend time with my dog, because to be fair, that dog is cute, and I'd want to spend a month off with that dog.
Instead of getting kicked by Tomoka and
exactly,
right.
Exactly, being dropped on her head repeatedly. I wonder which one I prefer.
Yeah, it's like, no, I'm good. Rob, you said if they did do Io versus Mayu, you said the tickets would skyrocket. Would they Io skyrocket?
Oh, stop it, you. Look at that.
Yeah.
That's 2.0 all over again.
Here we go, brother.
Moving on from the Mayu stuff, obviously, the more that develops, you're so proud of yourself, aren't you?
Yeah, it doesn't take much. Easily entertained. God bless you for putting up with me, though, brother. You deserve a gold star.
Thanks, man. A gold Dream Star, if you will.
Oh,
this is it now. But the rest of the podcast runtime is just me and Matt making really poor ham-fisted puns. So we obviously, the more that we find out about the Mayu situation, if there is indeed a situation to unravel, then obviously we'll report it on both Stardomcast and the Marigold Standard. I just want to talk very briefly about Bozilla, because we talked, if you remember, Matt, last episode about the rumblings that Bozilla was NXT bound. And we weren't going to give that any credence, but then Bozilla retweeted, quote tweeted it with some emojis that piqued our interest. However, from what I understand, or from what I'm led to believe, she's committed for a year from when she arrived. So if we take when she arrived as the 20th of May for Marigold Fields Forever, she is committed until May of 2025. So her imminent arrival in NXT is not going to happen. What happens after that, don't know, obviously. But for now, she is locked into Marigold. There was also a wild rumour going around that her and Zeta Steele were backstage at NXT No Mercy. Obviously, I don't know if Zeta Steele was, but as Bozilla was wrestling in Ryogoku earlier that day, I'd be very surprised if she was backstage. But again, in fact, I'm pretty sure she wasn't. But just to be backstage and not come out.
The wrestling internet's the best. It really is.
Yeah.
You got the wrestling internet is their own version of our what if. They really are.
Exactly. That was like, I don't think she is. But yes, just to allay anyone's fears, if there was anyone's fears, Bozilla is indeed committed to Marigold for a year from, obviously, the 20th of May. It might be slightly before. Speaking of Bozilla, Matt, this podcast marks something of a first, I think, in that I have watched a match that you have not. Now, I don't want to say that you're slacking. I don't want to say that you don't take this podcast as seriously as I do. I don't want to say that you only think about yourself and not the workload that you put on my poor British pasty shoulders. But that's how I feel, that you have not watched the Marigold versus Marvelous match from the Noah N1 Victory Final.
Yeah, last time you were this disappointed in me was about a month ago because I wouldn't travel cross country all the way from Pennsylvania to California to see Hanako at a New Japan Academy show. So I apologize. It's for good reason. It's for good reason because I'm actually doing a series of a special bonus episode for all of our fantastic listeners where I'm watching every single 5-star Grand Prix final and I'm going to do a review. So that's the reason why I apologize. I did not watch this match because one, I forgot. I really just with my workload, not only this podcast but just with my job and everything else, I forgot. And two, I was watching Kyrie and Hudson Envy have one of the most underrated matches that in the history of Stardom, by the way, which was a fantastic match. But yes, I apologize to all of the listeners of the podcast that I did not watch that match, and of course, 1,000 apologies to you, Mr. Goodwin.
I suppose it will have to do, but you're not just letting me down. You're not just letting the fans down. You're letting yourself down as well. No,
I did.
But
I would do 100. I would do 100 push-ups for my punishment, for my penance after this podcast, sir.
Well, I certainly hope so. So Noah had the finals of their N1 Victory tournament on the 1st of September in the Edion Arena. They drew 1,500 people, 1,537. It wasn't quite as big as I've just made out. 1,537 people in attendance. We had obviously the finals of the aforementioned tournament, a couple of title matches as well with the GHC Junior Heavyweight Championship, the Junior Heavyweight Tag titles and the tag titles as well were all on the line. However, the match we want to focus on was about halfway up the Carnate Woman tag match that saw the Marvelous team of Great Tsukuya, Miyuki Tagase, Sandra Moon, and Takumi Iroha defeat the Marigold team of Bozilla, Kazuna Tanaka, Koki Amare, and Miku Aono in 13 minutes and 49 seconds. Takumi Iroha pinning Kazuna Tanaka after a running knee strike. This match, the entire card has received rather a lot of flack on Cage Match. I believe the entire rating last time I checked was something like 3.68, I'm sorry. I'm giving it unfair criticism, but yeah, 3.68. A lot of people unhappy with the card. I don't think a lot of that criticism is levied at this match. This match was good. I don't think it's quite as good as the match that we saw back at Noah Magic back in May. That saw Julia Utami, Mirai, and Mai Sakurai on the Marigold team. However, it was still a good match. Seeing Takumi Iroha and Miku Aono kick the hell out of each other is always going to be incredibly fun. Bozilla got the biggest reaction when she was tagged in. She was a hugely over. Kazuna Tanaka got little bits in, just basically rocketing around the ring. Koki Amare was hugely put over by Stu Fulton on commentary, who I know that he is obviously a part of the commentary team for Marigold, but he did a tremendous job really putting over some of the stories, some of the wrestlers and things like that over on commentary. It was him and Mark Pickering, and obviously Mark was less au fait with the Marigold people, but Stu filling in those gaps as any good commentator does, but he did it superbly. The one sort of, it's not a criticism by any stretch of the imagination, but I can't get on board with the Great Sequoia's character. And I said this to you actually, Matt, before we went on air. I find her character very similar to that of Karma, which was the alter ego of Haruka Umasaki, if you remember when they held the New Blood tag titles. And the problem is, because of the way the Great Sequoia wrestles, it slowed everything down. And you'd had a relatively hot start with Miku Aono and Takumi Iroha, and then when Bozilla and the Great Sequoia tagged in, it was very much a case of, right, we're slowing down because the Great Sequoia is being weird. It picked up again towards the end. Bozilla eats the mist, ends up being taken off the apron by Koki Amare by mistake. So it'll be interesting to see if Marigold build anything around that. But ultimately, Takumi Iroha manages to plow through Kazuna Tanaka with a knee strike. I gave it 3.5 stars. It was a good match. I preferred that Marigold and Noah tag from the Magic pay-per-view, Matt. So definitely go and check it out if you've got time. It's nice to see someone like Kazuna Tanaka getting the flowers that they deserve. And again, those exchanges between Miku Aono and Takumi Iroha are worth the price of admission alone. But Matt, I don't know about you, but I want to begin talking about this Dream Star Grand Prix that started on Saturday. What do you think?
Rob, I think that you're dreaming that you want to talk about this tournament. I think you want to talk about some stars talking about this tournament.
Jesus Christ.
This gets worse. We're down to 4 listeners now.
Our retention is dreadful at this point. So, yes, we started their round robin tournament, the Dream Star Grand Prix, on Saturday, 31st of August, with a double shot in Edion Arena, Osaka, number 2. An afternoon show and an evening show. Didn't have a full set of matches on either. Sorry, not on either of these shows, but she does return to action against Mai Sakurai on the 8th of September, and that match is going to be very, very interesting, especially considering what happens in the main event of this first show. This first show, by the way, the afternoon show, 363 people in attendance. That's Marigold's first venture into the Edion Arena, Osaka, number 2. The results then are as follows, and then we'll talk a little more about each of the matches. We opened with a 4-way match. Myla Grace defeating Chiaki, Kamomo Minami, and Minami Yuki with the fall from Grace in 6 minutes. We then started our Dream Star Grand Prix matches, all block matches from here. Star League match, Bozilla defeating Kazuna Tanaka with a driller hole pile driver in 5 minutes and 10 seconds. Natsumi Showzuki versus Victoria Yuzuki in the Dream League ended in a time limit draw of 15 minutes. Dream League match again, Nori defeated Koki Amare with a vicious head kick in 9 minutes and 53 seconds. Star League match, Miku Aono moved to 2 points, defeating Misa Matsui with the Styles Clash in 6 minutes and 44 seconds. Dream League match, Mirai defeated Chikagoto with what Twitter called a complex joint hold, which I quite liked, in 9 minutes and 43 seconds. Whatever it was, it looked brutal. In a Dream League match, one of two enormous surprises, for me at least, on this card. Nagisa Nozaki defeating overwhelming tournament favourite Utami Hayashishita with the Noir Lancer in 8 minutes and 47 seconds. And then in your main event, Star League match, Mai Sakurai, I would argue this is the biggest singles victory of her career, defeated Nanae Takahashi with the STF in 13 minutes and 53 seconds. Before we get into the individual matches, Matt, how do you think this card was as a whole?
I thought this was great. And again, 363 people. You have to remember this was in the middle of a typhoon.
It was.
If you remember, we weren't sure if any of these shows were going to happen, but these fans showed out. I thought it was really good. You mentioned with Mai Sakurai versus Nanae Takahashi. I don't know if you remember of one wrestler called the Model Rick Martel. Now, Rob Goodwin, how he used to win his matches over these enhancement talents on Wrestling Challenge back in the day is he'd put them in the Boston Crab, and their opponent would then submit, and then he'd tell the referee he didn't want to win that way, and then he would go to the top rope or the middle rope and hit a double knee bomb and then pin him. Mai Sakurai, after she had the tap out win here, with the STF, she just said, no, I don't want to win that way, and then pin Nanae Takahashi with the Goodwin elbow drop. I'm just saying it would have made the show that much
The Goodwin elbow drop, tremendous.
I've been dying to get that in. As soon as I read the result of this match, I was like, oh, how funny. Ben, she's like, no, I don't want to win that way. But no, I thought the show was really good as a whole. I thought every match started building up. I thought the middle of the card, and again, we'll go over our star ratings. The middle card of the matches, they were really, really solid matches. But those last two matches, the Utami versus Nagisa Nozaki and Mai Sakurai versus Nanae Takahashi, I thought they were the two best matches of this tournament. And then you kind of had, again, kind of two upsets here because, again, you have your two former World of Stardom champions, your two former winners of the 5-Star Grand Prix going back to back against kind of the younger talent of this roster. Not that Utami Hayashishita is 50 by any stretch of the imagination, but basically losing. But if you go back and watch how Rossi used to book the 5-Star Grand Prix, there was always upsets on night 1 or 2. Nights 1 and 2. You look at Hazuki over Julia back in the tournament 2 years ago, and then Julia rallies to come back and win the tournament. So, I really wasn't shocked. And that's what's great about these tournaments is these upsets can happen at any time. But overall, I thought both these shows were really, really good. And considering the fact that we had, again, the 5-star final on the same day, really one of the greatest one days of wrestling shows ever, considering the fact you had two fantastic shows from Marigold and the Stardom 5-star final. And again, you had a kind of packed houses for these shows, considering the fact you're in the middle of a typhoon. But regardless, excellent stuff from Marigold and some wrestlers to really, really keep our eyes out for as this tournament is starting to unfold, Rob.
Yeah, and I imagine I know at least one person who you're going to be singing the praises of. And just off the back of what you've just said, there were 12 different shows on the 31st of August around and about the Tokyo area and places like that, Osaka, Yokohama. So the fact that we had not only the Stardom 5-Star Grand Prix final, I know the Gato Move also had their Korakuen Hall show, and then, of course, you had the Typhoon as well. For Marigold to draw those numbers is still quite impressive. Looking then at, and just another shock, obviously, we had the 2019 show where I think on night 2, Utami beat Arisa Hoshiki. So, it's not obviously out of possibility that we were going to get shocks, and I think it would have been very surprising if Utami is to go on and win the tournament, if she was to do it unbeaten. And I think Nagisa Nozaki, looking back on it, is certainly a credible person to beat Utami in the way she beat her as well with that Noir Lancer. That standing Noir Lancer was vicious. Let's start with Bozilla and Kazuna Tanaka, though. No offense to the 4-way, but we are going to be basically just looking at the block matches. Poor Kazuna Tanaka. She really can't seem to keep out of Bozilla's way at the moment, and that's not somewhere you ever really want to find yourself, is it, Matt?
Rob, did you ever see or heard of the movie Brave? It was a Pixar Disney movie.
Yes, is this the one with the ginger Scottish lady?
Yeah, a rumor
Yes.
has it that they're coming out with a new Brave movie, and it's going to be starring Kazuna Tanaka. Because not only was it here with Bozilla, but the match she had a couple weeks ago, she did the same thing. Where it was just like, she's the rookie, Bozilla's the big, the big heel kaiju monster, whatever she's calling herself, and she just runs right at her. She's like, I don't care. I'm gonna throw caution to the wind. So if I'm gonna get my ass kicked, I'm gonna get my ass kicked. And guess what happened to Rob? She got her ass kicked.
She
But
really did.
I love her enthusiasm here. I love it. She's just like, I don't care. I'm going for it. She jumps Bozilla. Like, you're playing with fire. You're gonna get burned here. And she got burned. She comes in there with the big forearms. Bozilla takes over, but then Kazuna Tanaka, to her credit, showing her resilience this early on in her career with the rolling arm bar. But and then she actually hits the redream. That scores her a 2 count, but Bozilla just winds up firing back with some clubbering Vader style blows, the big spine buster, and sets her up for the drill a hole pile driver, almost planting poor Kazuna Tanaka in the mat for the 3 count. What a statement, not only for your first Dream Star match, but your first Dream Star match ever. I mean, this is the match right here, which is a really cool way where it's like Kazuna Tanaka is just blitzing Bozilla, and then Bozilla just like plants her proper head first in the middle of the ring. Solid stuff here. We're clearly putting Kazuna Tanaka over somebody that doesn't have any fear, and it might be to her detriment. And then we're clearly having Bozilla look as this is going to be the person to be over in the star bracket. 3.25 stars for me, my friend.
Yeah, I think we sort of highlighted Bozilla as a possible bracket buster, and someone to certainly watch out for come the end of this tournament. I did like the fact that, again, Bozilla does this very well where she seems to play with her food. And then the moment that Kazuna Tanaka gets that near fall with the redream, it's almost the very next move is Bozilla going, right, okay, enough's enough. And she hits the drill a hole pile driver for the victory. I do like that. I would not be surprised to see Tanaka steal at least one shock win at some point in this tournament, especially now that she's perfected this redream roll up. I always think she looks very composed in the ring. She's got this sort of captivating charm that's really contagious. You can't help but root for her. And she just seems so genuinely likable as well. So yeah, really good match to open. I think I gave it 3 stars. It was a good match. And again, Bozilla, great start. We move on then to Natsumi Showzuki and Victoria Yuzuki ending in a time limit draw. Hatman lasted 1 match before booking a time limit draw, which I love. Stick to what you know, Rossi Vice. But this is another match that I did really enjoy, and I enjoyed the fact that Yuzuki is very evident in the way that she wants to be this brand new star of Marigold, the ace of Marigold, and the way to do that is to have a good tournament. And the way she has a good tournament is by starting fast. And she starts fast because she slaps away the hand of the Superfly champion and then just goes at her with forearms. And that's what I really enjoy. And do you know what? After that start, after Yuzuki is lighting her up with forearms, Natsumi Showzuki genuinely struggles to get a foothold in this match for large parts of it. Like, she can't quite deal with the amount of zeal that Yuzuki is bringing to this match. And yes, ultimately, Showzuki is the one with the pinfall as the bell rings. However, you could argue that Yuzuki is extremely unlucky not to win this match, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the fact this went 15 minutes, the time limit draw, how it starts out. It starts off with a whole bunch of really fast near falls. So considering you're starting out fast, and us as the viewers are like, okay, this one's not going to go long because they're teasing a short finish. So they build it up, bring it back down, build it back up. They throw a whole bunch of psychology in there. And then as you're getting the countdown going, you don't know which way it's going to go. You made mention we had that forearm trade-off. And then Yuzuki really targets the neck of Natsumi Showzuki, where we really haven't seen her this vicious before. but she's here to make a statement that she is the future of this company. She is the future of Joshi Japanese wrestling, and she's here to really, to stay. And, she's made mention before that she wants to be the future ace of this company, and she's off to a great start. And I totally agree with you. Natsumi Showzuki is somebody that is a main event talent. She is a champion here over in Marigold. And even though it went to the time limit draw, again, if I'm looking at this from an MMA style judging, I would judge for Yuzuki to win this match, even though it went to the time limit draw. But I think a lot of people had Yuzuki was on top of this match, like 65% of this match, which it was really nice to see Natsumi Showzuki, considering the fact of how an aggressive wrestler she is. She's on the back foot here. We haven't seen that too much here in the short time that Marigold's been a company, but it was really cool to see her selling and really her putting over Yuzuki in her selling. Victoria Yuzuki again goes the neck crank. Natsumi Showzuki comes back, blitzes her with the octopus stretch and some really, really cool high impact offense, with the kicks and the running knees. Yuzuki then is able to go back to the neck crank to slow down the high style offense of Natsumi Showzuki. And yeah, you're right. Even though as the bell ring, it looked like Natsumi Showzuki was really close to putting away Victoria Yuzuki. But again, if this was an MMA style match where we're, even though it went to the time limit draw, who am I voting for the win? I would say it was Yuzuki. Regardless, great match. I really enjoyed this match. I would love to see this run back, maybe for Natsumi Showzuki's Super Flyweight Championship. I had this at 4 stars. I thought this was really terrific.
Something that I did really enjoy about this match was you've got two very accomplished wrestlers. Yuzuki, bafflingly so when you consider she's been wrestling less than a year. But there were bits of it that were really untidy, and I don't mean that in a negative way at all. There's a moment where Natsumi Showzuki is attempting to lift Yuzuki into a body slam. And it's a very, very simple spot. And it's after Yuzuki has had a sustained period of pressure, and Showzuki is looking for this way out, and she goes for this body slam, and Yuzuki is having none of it, and it becomes like this. And we're going to be talking a little bit about this in the Mirai and Nori match, in the opening of that match, but it becomes this war of attrition where Yuzuki is almost sandbagging Showzuki, and Showzuki's like, come on, I need to get you up, come on. And, it really does show that it more like a fight than this choreographed sort of sequence, which wrestling can sometimes be. And I'm always a big fan of that in matches like this, where it is more of an ugly fight at points. Really good match, 3.5 stars, really enjoyed it. Didn't feel like it went 15 minutes. I'm all for it. Now, Matt, I know that over these 2 matches, you are something of a big fan of Nori. Am I right?
Yeah, I mean, I like every style in wrestling, don't get me wrong, but the shoot style really, really hits home with me. It's tough to do. You look like Minoru Suzuki, Katsuhori Shibata, Shiri. They're only one of the few wrestlers that can do that shoot style pro wrestling and make it look good. Nori, who I've only seen going into this tournament, just that one match, and it was that 6-person tag match at Summer Destiny. So considering the fact there was 5 other people in the ring, you only got to see a little bit of her. And you made again, kudos to you, brother. You made the prediction about a week before it was announced that you thought Nori was going to be that last entrant, into this tournament. And I'm glad she was, because this match with Koki Amare, and obviously we'll get into the match with Mirai on the, I'll say the next day, later on in that day, but the next show we're going to review. But I'm completely blown away by Nori. She is one of my new favorite wrestlers. I seem to be saying that a lot with Marigold, because I love me some Miku Aono. I love me some Natsumi Showzuki. I love me some Koki Amare and some Chika Goto. But Nori seems to be kind of the new the new shiny toy for me as far as great wrestlers, because I think she's terrific. Her style worked really well with Koki Amare, considering the fact that, again, she's trained by Shinobi Kandori. Again, yes, that Shinobi Kandori. That Koki Amare's got to bring it here, and she brings it. She's got the height advantage. she throws some wicked running Yakuza kicks. Like that's kind of her go-to. Like that's her Mayu super kick. That's her Kazuchi Okada drop kick, where it's like that's her big move to kind of start building towards her offense. And this was really good here. I liked how Nori is using her strikes early on to just overwhelm the young Kokiamare here in this match, and then she starts breaking down Kokiamare's arm. Kokiamare is aware of it, so she kind of tries to hide the arm, but it was just a ploy for Nori to lock in a rear naked choke. I thought that was really cool stuff. Kokiamare shows a lot of fighting back here because she's just getting blitzed here from Nori. She locks in the Argentina backbreaker and then follows it up with a big boot. Nori then tries to take away some of that height advantage with some leg kicks. And the Kokiamare comes up with a huge step up in Saguri, but ultimately it's Nori just using that striking advantage to her advantage. Not to reuse a word twice, but I just did. And hits a brutal head kick for the 3 count. I thought this was terrific. I thought Kokiamare's fighting spirit in this match, especially towards the end, was something we haven't really seen from her just yet, but something that we know that she now has. She can show that she's going to take a beating, but then really give it back and really fight back, which is something that I love to see in these hard-hitting matches. But ultimately, my man, this was terrific. I'm so excited to see what else Nori does in this tournament. I had this match at 4 stars, and again, I know I'm singing Nori's praises here, and rightfully so, but I thought Kokiamare was absolutely brilliant in this match as well.
Yeah, I think she, to a certain extent, might get overlooked because of everyone sort of fawning over how good Nori is. And I think in this, and especially the Mirai match, they're absolutely right. Nori looks to be a real talent. Obviously has legitimate MMA experience. I think it's amateur. I don't think it was ever pro. But really getting that into it. And I think she had the perfect dance partner here in Kokiamare, who is going from strength to strength every time we see her. And she feels very much like she is going to be that future star that Stu Fulton certainly seems to think that she is going to be down the line. Overall, probably slightly weaker than the Showzuki and Yuzuki match for me. I gave it 3.25 stars, but still a really positive outing for Nori. Really good, well, not from a point standpoint, but a good start for Kokiamare as well. Misa Matsui and Miku Aono. Now, Miku Aono has the absolute battle of her life here, Matt Turner, and I'm not actually talking about Misa Matsui. Someone needs to get this woman a sash that fits, because good grief, that woman was battling so hard to keep that sash on. I felt so sorry for her as she's attempting to do all these things, and this sash just will not stay on her shoulder, will it?
You know what I failed to mention, and I'm glad you brought that up, buddy, that the sashes. Huge fan of these sashes, and whenever we would do the alternate commentary for some of these older 5-star Grand Prix shows, me and you would always say, man, I wish they would bring back the sashes and the streamers. And it's like, oh, again, Hatman, know what brings you to the dance. Time limit draws and sashes in your in your tournaments. Hey, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
That should be the name of the episode. Time limit draws and sashes.
And we're happy campers because it just makes this more intriguing. It just makes it feel bigger, the pageantry, like very much like we just had the Olympics. It just makes it so much cooler. So I really like that. I'm like, oh, the sashes, we've been saying we wanted to see those back for about 2 years now, and here is the Hatman giving us what we want. So thank you, Mr. Rossi Weiss. But I didn't notice that. I really didn't. I guess I'm 0 for 2, my man. Not only did I not do my homework for the Noah tag match, but I'm not noticing sashes either. So I will keep a close eye on the sashes for the rest of the tournament. But as far as this match goes, brother, this was blitzing and blinding. This was less than 7 minutes of, don't hold your breath and don't blink, because this was nonstop. I mean, we get a forearm and kick trade off to begin. Misa Matsui hits a dive and then just really goes after Miku Aono's knee. Miku Aono, the first chance she gets, she hits that spinning slam and just starts to kick away at the Speed Star, which I really loved. I like how Miku Aono does like almost a top wrist lock stretch plum. I don't know the name of it, but just gives me Toshiaki Kawada vibes. And she kind of wrestles that way, with the kicks, the forearm. She really does wrestle like a Toshiaki Kawada. And there's a dream match that, there's a tag team mixed dream match that I'd love to see. 94 Kawada teaming with current day Miku Aono. So, really. Really interesting stuff there. I'm a big fan of Miko Ano throwing like the lariats as well. Has a very underrated lariat considering the base of her striking offense is those kicks. But Misa Matsumi, towards the end of the match, is really starting to break down Miko Ano's knee, locking in the stretch muffler. She winds up doing the La Mystica into the Backlund bridge roll for a 2.9 count, but ultimately it's Miko Ano blitzing her, blitzing Misa Matsumi with some strikes, hits the Styles Clash for a 3 count. Again, this is another 4-star match for me. The last 3 matches here that we're reviewing all get 4 stars, but they're all building to be a little bit better as we get into the main event and the co-main event. But really good stuff here with Misa Matsumi and Miko Ano, able to tell a brilliant story in less than 7 minutes, which just goes to show you how talented these two wrestlers are.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought it was an interesting way that Misa Matsui attacked this match. It seemed like she was a little bit more aggressive in her mindset, and despite having a nickname of the Speed Star, she started very, very focused on Miko Ano's legs, which makes, of course, a lot of sense when you consider that a lot of Miko Ano's offense is those rocketing kicks into the chest. And I thought Misa Matsui had a really good idea in sort of taking out that knee and then using the speed when Miko Ano has that sort of that static base because of the injured knee, sort of using it to duck under and sort of exhaust her with that pace. I thought that was really good. She locks in such a smooth stretch muffler as well. And of course, using those pinning attempts to force Miko Ano to use the bad leg to kick out was a really, really clever way of trying to grind down that leg. She doesn't heed the warning sign, Misa Matsui, though, where she attempts to go for a Frankensteiner only to be very, very nearly hit with the Styles Clash. Of course, she's eventually hit with that Styles Clash. She might have lost the match, but I think with this more aggressive mindset, plowing into Miko Ano with those 3 cross bodies, whereas ordinarily she only hits 1, I don't think she's going to have to wait long for her first victory, although she has got Bozilla in the evening, so I don't hold much hope for that. 3 3/4 stars from me. I am such a massive fan of both these women, but Misa Matsui is someone who I'm constantly impressed by every time I see. She's so great at getting a crowd reaction, and I love that. I really, really do. She's so over with the crowd. Mirai and Chika Goto then. This was a murder, Matt. I think it's fair to say.
Wow. Wow. Okay, go ahead, sir. Go ahead, sir.
I mean,
we just went dark here. Okay, go ahead.
Chika Goto has undoubtedly been mightily impressive over recent weeks. She put in a fantastic display against Julia and Nanae Takahashi when she was teaming with Koki Amare, and then again against Saudi and Arisa Nakajima in Corrigan Hall. But, performances mean little when they result in losses, and Go Chika needs to sort of build on these performances and turn them into results. Doesn't start well here because Mirai absolutely destroys her arm, and from there the match is pretty much a case of when is Mirai going to put Chika Goto away. Chika Goto fights valiantly, but that's the problem. She fights valiantly but then falls at that final hurdle, and she actually gets the chance to stamp her authority on this match when she goes for the chokeslam, but because of that inexperience she uses the bad arm that Mirai's been sort of targeting for the entire match, and Mirai snatches it into that submission so smoothly. It's such a beautiful transition. She's been ramping up the intensity and the aggression on this arm. Chika Goto, she goes for the choke slam. It's the bad arm. Immediately, Mirai snatches it into that submission hold. Manipulates her into the complex joint hold. Apparently, it doesn't have a name yet. It's just a really complicated joint hold, according to Twitter. But I thought it was a really, really dominant victory for Mirai, who I've actually seen online many, many people tipping Mirai to win the tournament over Utami Hayashishita. So interesting there, Matt.
Well, I'd have no problem with that.
Nor me.
Mirai was great here, and I think I put something out on Twitter as soon as this match was over that we've seen Mirai with some pretty good grappling, like in Stardom and obviously at the start here, Marigold. but she's really tapping into that grappling, and it's really good. And obviously, we'll talk about in the Nori match coming up here in just a few minutes. But like this match was like, yeah, you have the inexperience of Chikagoto versus like the big match experience that is Mirai. Because Chikagoto tries to get into a fast start here. She tries to like outstrike Mirai. She tries to go for the giant swing. Eventually, Mirai starts slowing the match down, grinding down the headlock, going for that arm work. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It's basically Mirai just breaking down Chikagoto's arm. She has a game plan. She sticks to it. Ultimately, she sees it through, and she's able to get a win here. But you made mention twice already on this podcast, brother, that a very complex submission hold was the finish, the technical finish of this match. Here's what I have, my man. Here's what I have, because Mirai, very much like the late great Billy Robinson, attacks the body at the end like a ladder, going from one move to the other. Billy Robinson had a very set of rules when he taught catch wrestling, that if you don't have a submission in, if they're not tapping after 3 or 4 seconds, very much like we see with Zack Sabre Jr., if you don't have that submission in 3 or 4 seconds, you don't have it in, but you have a hold and can transition into another submission, again attacking the body like a ladder. And that's exactly what Mirai does here in the end. And again, here's what I have technically for my finish of this match. Mirai transitions from an armbar into a cross arm breaker, into a triangle choke, into a double armbar stretch muffler for the tap out. That's what I have. I also have this match at 4 stars. I had it at 3 3/4 stars, but I bumped it up to a 1/4 star. Again, extra credit because of the complex nature of Mirai to, again, attack the body like a ladder and to win this match again into the double armbar stretch muffler combination. Really good stuff here, and this was very much pretty, not one-sided, but yeah, maybe one-sided, as Mirai, I like how she's tapping in to the grappling side of her offense, because we haven't seen it really unfold the way that we're seeing it here in the first 2 shows of the Dream Star Grand Prix, and it just gives Mirai another level of violence and brilliance.
Agreed. I gave it 3.5. I do think that Chikagoto excels as the underdog, but it's going to be interesting throughout this tournament to see where that stops and where she gets that first victory. Because in her block, you're looking at that block now: Mirai, Nagisa Nozaki, Nori, Natsumi Showzuki, Utami, Koki Amare, and Victoria Yuzuki. You can't really see where Chikagoto is going to get her victory. You know, she might be able to eke out a victory over maybe a Koki Amare, maybe a Victoria Yuzuki, but it's in these tournaments, it's less about performances and more about how you get those results. And it'll be really interesting to see how Chikagoto goes about the rest of the tournament. Speaking of Utami Hayashishita, Nagisa Nozaki with the victory. Really, really interesting. The fact that she is the person to give Utami her first singles loss in Marigold, Matt.
Well, other than Io, but yeah, I get you.
You know what I mean.
I got to get something back. You're destroying me this whole episode about how I'm not doing my homework and whatnot. So I don't know, folks out there. If tag Rob in Twitter, he didn't know that Io and Utami had a match in Marigold just about a handful of weeks ago. So we're a tag team, buddy. I'll help you out. You don't worry about it.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it.
Yeah, hey, what a team! Stardom Cast, Marigold Standard experience forever. Anywho, this was the breakout match I've been waiting for Nagisa Nozaki to have. I know that she was under contract to, I think it was Pro Wrestling Wave, and it was a big ordeal because once she got released from her contract, because she was a big star in that company, and I never heard of her before. And again, that may sound negative. Again, it's just because I have had all my eggs in the Stardom basket, now obviously the Marigold basket as well. But then I would go and look her up because it made waves when she got released from her contract and she was a free agent. I went and watched some of her matches. I'm like, wow, she's really, really good. And she's had some good matches in Marigold, but we're waiting for her to have that breakout match. And this was it. I don't think anybody would disagree with me. This is the single greatest performance that she's had since she's been in Marigold. And she's had some really good matches, don't get me wrong. But, I mean, this was her statement match. Not only is it against Utami, not only is it night 1 of the first ever Dream Star, but it's to get a win. And regardless, even if she lost this match, she elevated herself, which obviously she won. We get a hard-hitting forearm trade-off to start the match Nagisa Nozaki kind of gets the better of Utami in the beginning of the match, that's what you want to see. Utami's a really good wrestler when she's mounting her comeback because she's so physical, she's so violent, she's so explosive, and she can really, really tap into getting the crowd behind her. You want to see her rally behind from the butt kicking that she's going to get. Utami Hayashishita is a genius wrestler when it comes to not only psychology but crowd psychology, knowing what to do when and when to put her comeback in. And she does a great job here. She gets a top road air raid crash, locking in the rear naked choke. She's really starting to attack the neck of Nagisa Nozaki, that ultimately she's trying to set her up for the torture rack bomb and the hijack bomb. But ultimately, though, it's Utami's not able to hit that hijack bomb. It's Nagisa Nozaki that is able to blitz Utami towards the end of this match. She hits this insane Cobra clutch suplex that drops Utami on the back of her neck. And as Utami's trying to get back up, she hits that running Yakuza kick, the NORI Lancer, right into the side of the head of Utami. Utami does a great job selling it, and almost it's like a knockout sell. And Nagisa Nozaki getting the big upset win here in less than 9 minutes on one of the best wrestlers in the world, and in my opinion, the best wrestler on this roster. Regardless of what happens with Nagisa Nozaki the rest of this tournament, she has this great match and this big win to fall back on. And again, if we think that Utami is going to win this tournament and eventually win the red belt, the world belt for Marigold, you can always go back to have Nagisa Nozaki as a first challenger or somebody that on the way for that red belt match, if Utami does win this tournament, they can run this one back at a Korakuen or at a bigger venue, and it's going to do really, really well, not only from a financial standpoint but from an in-the-ring point. But this was a terrific match. 4.25 stars for me, my friend. This was great, and I have a feeling that we're going to see this match replayed somewhere down the line with Utami getting her win back. And by no means is that a bad thing, my man. That's a good thing. Again, 4.25 stars for me, and a really breakout performance here from Nagisa Nozaki.
Yeah, certainly, in my opinion, her best performance in Marigold by some distance, I think, as well. But when you've got a dance partner like Utami, it's very difficult to have a bad match. But that Noir Lancer, man, the one she finally finished Utami off with, good grief, she absolutely steamrolled through Utami with that. It was absolutely fantastic. We move on then. Mai Sakurai getting the win over Nanae Takahashi. She might have eaten the L against Julia, but to say that she has upped her own stock significantly following that match would be something of an understatement, Matt. And now we are at a point where we are talking about Mai Sakurai being up there as a favourite to win this block, and I am not bothered by that at all. And honestly, that is credit to the work that Mai Sakurai has been putting in, because this match was absolutely superb, the best match of the night. And again, it was very similar in a way to that Victoria Yuzuki and Natsumi Showzuki match that I was talking about, in that Mai Sakurai absolutely blitzed Nanae. And apart from Nanae again, her own back for Mai jumping the bell, throwing her into the chairs, into the ring post, she really struggled to counteract the aggression that Mai Sakurai came out of this. And it's difficult to counteract someone who's got a move so deadly as the Goodwin elbow drop. I understand that. But
yeah,
got to, man. Got to. Live the gimmick. But genuinely, it felt like Nanae was struggling with the pace and the aggression that Mai was delivering with this. And to have her win with the STF as well. And I know that is perhaps more because of Mai not being able to get Nanae up for the Glorious Driver, potentially. But I think having it happen with the STF is so much more of a statement. And it does feel like we're probably going to get this match run back, which again, I am absolutely fine with, because Nanae says, I never tapped, I never quit, I will never ever quit. And Mai said that the next time they meet, she's going to get her to say, I quit. Overall, I thought this was an absolutely fantastic performance. And I know we're talking about Mai Sakurai like she's 19. I know she's not. She's in her 30s. But it does feel like an up-and-comer usurping a Joshi legend. And it was done superbly well. And you know what? I've sung the praises of Mai Sakurai share some love for Nanae Takahashi. She is doing some of her best work she's done in years in Marigold, and doing things like this, helping elevate talent like Mai Sakurai, absolutely superb, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously Rossi Ogawa. I don't need to tell you or anybody else listening, is an absolute genius. There's a reason why he does certain things. Not only is this a win for Mai Sakurai, but it's a main event win. You could have put any of like 3 or 4 matches in as the main event, and everybody would have went home happy because there's a lot of really good high quality matches. There's a reason why this was the main event, is because we are showcasing Mai Sakurai here. You know, she went almost 30 minutes with Julia and gave Julia an absolutely fantastic match in a jam-packed Korakuen Hall. And now we're putting her in the ring up again against a former winner of the 5-star Grand Prix, again a former World of Stardom champion, because that's the Josh, that's the mark, folks. The reason why I keep going back to referring to Stardom is because for the last 10 years, when it comes to Joshi wrestling, they're the benchmark. And the fact that Mai Sakurai gets a win here and against a very game Nanae Takahashi, you made mention, you know, Mai Sakurai comes out and she's blitzing Nanae here. Like, she just going tooth and nail. And yeah, you just made mention about a minute ago, partner, how that no matter what Nanae does, Mai Sakurai just keeps coming back. And kind of the way that, like, I had pro wrestling psychology explained to me, it's like, think about, you have a boiling pot of water on your stove and it's boiling over, but you throw a little ice in there and eventually the boiling stops. But guess what happens? The ice melts and it starts to boil again. That's what's happening to Nanae Takahashi. She's throwing the ice on the red hot Mai Sakurai here to calm it down for a little bit, especially those dragon screws. She hits one, then hits one off the second rope, and then goes to the figure 4 that I thought was just gross. But eventually it's Mai Sakurai saying, no, this is my time. I have a ton of momentum here. And I have the main event in Korakuen Hall. I have the main event here, and I'm not going to let this stop me. I'm not going to miss my opportunity here. Ultimately, Nanae Takahashi tries to put away Mai Sakurai here with the Nanae Rocker. She gets hit with a reverse DDT, put back in the STF. And yes, you know, it is a pass out win. But regardless, you got caught in a submission. And I always say, watching an MMA fight, when you have 2 highly skilled strikers, all it takes is the right move on one person, the wrong move on another. They can get caught with a head kick or an uppercut. But when you get somebody to tap out, they got caught. They were the better grappler. This shows to me that Mai Sakurai on this night was the better grappler, because she caught Nanae Takahashi in that STF in the middle of the ring on the main event of your first Dream Star show. This is a statement win, not only for Mai Sakurai, this is a statement win for Marigold, that we are all behind Mai Sakurai, and damn right, and it is going to pay off. Regardless, again, I had my prediction of her winning this part of the bracket. Whether it happens or not, I don't know. But I think that everybody can agree with me that they don't do this win in this fashion in the main event if she's not going to be in at least contention going into that final night. And I am all for it. I thought she was terrific here. 4.25 stars for me. My favorite match of night 1.
Yeah, mine too. I think Mai Sakurai, it's now a bit beyond a joke, the fact that she was an undercard comedy act less than 9 months ago, and now she's in the main event of this show defeating Nanae Takahashi, and we're talking about how, yeah, that should have been the result. It's mad how things change. It really, really is. But that's night 1 done and dusted. But of course, there was the afternoon show as well that we're going to talk about. 305 people in attendance for this evening show. So a little bit of a dip. But as we've already said, that can be explained by A, the sheer volume of wrestling, and B, the typhoon. So just bear that in mind. So we opened with a singles match, Kazuna Tanaka defeating Myla Grace in 3 minutes and 41 seconds with the Redream. Mai Sakurai and Victoria Yuzuki then defeated Koki Amare and Minami Yuki in 6 minutes and 17 seconds. Dream Star, and all of these are now Dream Star block matches. Star League match, Bozilla, the first to 4 points, defeating Misa Matsui with the Driller Hole Pile Driver in 6 minutes and 28 seconds. Miku Aono in Star League as well. She moves up to 4 points, defeating Chiaki, who makes her tournament debut in 6 minutes and 31 seconds. In, spoilers, what has been my match of the tournament so far, Dream League match, time limit draw, Mirai and NORI, Utami Hayashishita next gets her tournament a little bit back on track, at least, defeating Chika Goto, moving to 2 points in the Dream League on 8 minutes and 4 seconds with the deadlift bridging German suplex. And then in your main event, Dream League match, Natsumi Showzuki moves to 3 points, defeating Nagisa Nozaki in 10 minutes and 11 seconds. Sorry, my iPad went to sleep. Matt, what was your opinion on this card, your favourite show? What would you like to talk about?
Well, let's obviously, I thought the first two matches with Myla Grace and Kazuna Tanaka, I thought it was excellent match. I wish they would have went a little bit more time, but regardless, we're here for the Dream Star and as well as the tag match with Mai Sakurai and Victoria Zuki versus Yuka Manami and Koki Amare. Both solid stuff, good way to start the show. But I think what everybody was anticipating was this Dream Star tournament here on the second part of this first day, and we got off to a fast start with once again Bozilla just. Poor Misa Matsui, very much like Victoria Yuzuki. She gave it her all. She went in there. She was very, again, brave. But ultimately, this tournament, especially these first two matches, it is showing that Bozilla is absolutely dominant. Bozilla's first part of this tournament isn't about star ratings or match quality. And I'm not saying the matches were bad by any stretch of the imagination. The whole point here is to show Bozilla's dominance. And kudos to Kazuna Tanaka on the first show, and kudos to Misa Matsui to not only giving it their all, but to make Bozilla look like the absolute monster that she is, and to make it look like, from a kayfabe standpoint, that she's the odds-on favorite to win this whole thing, because she's going into the next part of this tournament with, next to no damage done to her, because it was just a run through. It really was, with that F5 into the drill hole pile driver. Solid stuff here. Great selling from Misa Matsui. But again, to me, the psychology of Bozilla here, at least on the first night, is everybody to come away from this building saying, damn, that Bozilla, she is something else. And she really, really is. 3.25 stars for me, my man.
Yeah, another really good performance from both Bozilla and Misa Matsui. And again, we saw the spinning power slam, which is a move I'm always really impressed by. And then something I'm equally impressed by, the smoothest transition into a Samoan driver I think I've ever seen, with Bozilla catching Misa Matsui doing the crossbody and just dragging her through the middle rope and hitting her with the Samoan driver on the floor. Brutal and really smoothly done. So well played to both women there. Moving on then, Matt. Miku Aono and Chiaki. Chiaki coming out, of course, in those spiked glasses bequeathed to her by Julia. Miku Aono getting the victory, which I think both of us thought she would do. What do you think of this?
I thought it was a solid match. Miku Aono here was terrific, but I got to get the one negative thing out of the way here, and that is something when it comes to worker safety. Chiaki had the iron claw on, and she's going for the iron claw slam onto the chair. That's her gimmick, right? She had the wrong side of the chair. She had the part where the poles of the chair were up, and poor Miku Aono hit the back of her head on the one side of the chair. Thank God that she was okay. But I was like, holy jeez, you have to be careful when it comes to anything you're doing in wrestling, especially with weapons. But when you're slamming somebody on the wrong part of the chair or hitting somebody in the wrong part of the chair, you're just making a much more dangerous spot even worse. So just be careful, everyone, because you don't want, especially Miku Aono. I mean, any wrestler, really, but heaven forbid something happened to Miku Aono where that top part of the pole on the chair, it hit her neck, or she had a concussion and she'd be missing time, or she was injured. It's bad. It's tough enough in pro wrestling because you're putting your body at risk when something like that happens. I literally just, like, as soon as she had the iron claw and she was going up for the iron claw slam, I literally yelled as in the podcast room with nobody else in my house other than my cat saying, no, don't, that's the wrong part of the chair. So again, just be careful, especially Chiaki. She's a fantastic wrestler. Kind of took me out of the match just for a little bit, but then it got ramped back up with Miku Aono. Really was just like, oh yeah, you want to cheat by using weapons? I'm going to use my weapons. In the words of Taz back in the ECW days, my hands are my weapons, because Miku Aono just goes to town with the forearms, with the kicks. Ultimately hits a big double underhook suplex that leads to a lariat, that leads to the buzzsaw kick for the 3 count. 3.5 stars for me. Very, very hard hitting action. And like I said, it's this the carelessness of the chair, for lack of a better term, just kind of took me out of the match a little bit.
Yeah, obviously there's less give as well, which is, it's a mistake. It can happen. But unfortunately, wrestling is one of those unforgiving sports where one mistake can be extremely dangerous. But obviously, everyone is okay, thank God, and we move on. Mariah Nori. I imagine, Matt, someone who has a lot of love for shoot wrestling and grappling and catch wrestling. I imagine that you were loving this opening 5 minutes in particular, where it was unbroken for the entirety of the opening 5 minutes, just jockeying for position. And you could hear a pin drop in that match, and not in a bad way, in the fact that everyone in Eddie and Arena Osaka too was really intrigued as to where this was going. It's something completely different. And then obviously once we'd had that act, we then moved on to the kicks versus the lariats, which we knew was coming, and by Jove, it didn't disappoint, Matt.
No, this was great. And you made mention when you just ran down this is your favorite match of the tournament. And I think as soon as this match ended, I text you and I said, wait till you see this. This is the match to beat. This is the match for everybody to catch up to try to see what's going to be the match of the tournament. And again, it's subjective. You can like what you like, but you absolutely right. You know me very well, partner. And hopefully after doing about 200 episodes of podcasting, you understand I love the shoot style wrestling when it's done right. This was done darn near perfect. It starts out with like a little bit of grappling versus striking, and then we get some great ground grappling for like 4 or 5 minutes. And yeah, you're absolutely right. It's quiet because of what's going to happen. They're basically like a tennis match. Like, what is going to happen next? Who's going to go where? In ground grappling and just catch wrestling jiu-jitsu is so difficult to do, not only from a technique standpoint, but from a cardio and endurance standpoint. You have no idea how hard it is to be grappling with somebody as you're trying to transition from move to move, from arm to leg. Again, Billy Robinson, catch wrestling principle of tackling the body like a ladder, and to kind of go back and forth the way they were for 5-6 minutes, and then to go another 9 to 10 minutes ramped up the way they did once the grappling was done. We still went back to a little bit, but it just went back with Nori with the kicks, Mariah with the forearms. Nori gets the advantage with a Joshi style drop kick. We get some stiff forearm and kick exchanges. We get some wrist lock exchanges going back and forth, trying to go back to the submissions. And then again, yeah, exactly right. Lariats versus kicks, with Mariah obviously throwing her soul into the lariats and Nori throwing her entire body into the kicks. Just incredible stuff. Nori hits this head kick that I like, okay, that's got to be the end of the match. And then Mariah does what she does best. Fighting spirits up at the right time. Now this crowd is ramped up and hits this thunderous lariat, and then Mariah locks in a knee bar, which is something different. Makes sense. Usually Mariah, with the submission, she's going to the mirror Mariah, the double wrist lock. But we saw earlier on in the night that Mariah can do all sorts of submissions. Goes to the knee bar, makes sense, because where's Nori's power coming from? Her explosiveness with the kicks and the knees. I really, really like that. Mariah ducks a lariat and gets hit with a big head kick, but then Mariah again fires back with not one, but 2 lariats as we get the time limit draw. 4.5 stars for me, my friend. This was absolutely fantastic. Right up my alley. Sometimes they say style makes styles make fights, and these two styles work so well together, considering the fact that Mariah is one half of the Twin Star Tag Champions with Mai Sakurai, considering the fact that we already have our first ready-made feud/rivalry with Mariah and Miku Aono. Now you have something here with Nori that I'm not sure that the Hatman knew that he has, but he has. Mariah might be the most valuable asset here in the first year of Marigold, considering the fact we can plug her into a whole bunch of different things here, and they're all going to work, and they're all going to get great results, and they're all going to have everybody talking, obviously, including me and you, partners, saying, did you see that Mariah match? Did you see that Mariah match? Did you see what Mariah did? Did you see this? Did you see that? Mariah is somebody that was somebody, again, in Stardom that would flirt with the main event, but is a main event level wrestler here, considering the fact that, again, Anytime they want to pull the trigger on Mirai and Miku Aono, whether it's a tag title match or a singles match, they have it. And now you have something here with NORI, because I'm so excited to see, one, what NORI and Mirai do with the rest of this tournament, and two, if and when they run this one back, because now you can save this in your chamber for a big Sumo Hall show, for a big Cork and Hall show, and I will be so excited to see this one. This was terrific. My only negative thing on this was the time limit draw was perfect. The psychology made sense. I wish instead of 15 minutes, it went 55 minutes, because this was great. And again, yeah, right up my alley. Shoot style, submission, hard hitting psychology wrestling at its finest from two fantastic wrestlers. Again, brother, 4.5 stars for me. And this is the match of the tournament thus far.
I agree. I agree with everything you said. And something else to note about Mirai is we see her, we've talked about how she seems to have this weight lifted off her shoulders in Marigold. But even more than that, she seems to be innovating more. She seems to be changing up her offense more. And I think that comes with the confidence that she has in herself, because she does see herself as someone who's at the upper echelon of Marigold, and rightly so. But the innovation in what she's attempting to do, the grappling stuff that she does with NORI, the submission-based stuff that she's developing and expanding on, that we didn't necessarily get to see in Stardom, I'm really made up for it, and this was a tremendous match. And again, absolutely the match of the tournament, followed by Mai Sakurai and Nanae. Utami Hayashishita and Chika Goto, Matt. Another sterling performance from Chika Goto, another loss. What I did like was the fact that Chika Goto had the stuffing beaten out of her so badly by Utami and by Mirai on the previous night that she couldn't do the giant swing properly.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. She was still selling it, considering the fact that it happened mere hours earlier, and considering the fact that you're running the same building. So a lot of the over 300 people that were here to see this match, they saw the first match. So it's easy story to tell. And again, you're against Utami, in my opinion, the best wrestler on this roster. But then again, she would be the best wrestler on pretty much any roster in any wrestling company, regardless of gender. But poor Chika Goto has Mirai and Utami on not only the first two matches, but on the same night. It's just like, oh man, it's like, I think Hatman's like, hey, Chika Goto, here's what we're going to do. We're going to give you a nice little push. We're going to give you the coolest catchphrase in all Marigold. But there's a catch. And she's like, I don't care. I'm over. I got a catchphrase that's over. Whatever the catch is, Hatman, I don't care. I'm like, okay, no problem. We're putting you up in Mirai and Utami on the same night. Good luck, kid. But yeah, poor Chika Goto, but does a great job selling. Still selling the arm for the match that happened a handful of hours earlier. You can tell that Utami Hayashishita had a real sense of urgency. She's a favorite to win this tournament, or at least make it to the finals. She is, now that Julie is gone, she knows that she is the one to pretty much carry this company. I know carry kind of sounds like a bad term, but she's the big star in this company, right? She's the one that everybody's leaning on. She knows that she needs to get some wins in this tournament. And she wrestles this match with a sense of urgency. Really goes at it with the sleeper swing the sleeper swing. We haven't seen her really break that out in a long time. A few years, the sliding lariats, the air raid crash. We just see Chika go to just trying to fight back as much as she can. But Utami Hayashishita really puts the pedal to the metal. Ultimately, it's a big lariat, and then after the lariat, Chika Goto literally has nothing left, as that deadlift German suplex was pretty much exactly what it is, a deadlift German suplex. She just squatted down and picked up Chika Goto and just snapped her right back. And Utami Hayashishita, and I mentioned this a couple years ago on the Stardom cast, that one of her best moves is that German suplex. We know that she uses the torture rack bomb and the hijack bomb as two of her finishers, but it's nice to see her use that German suplex, especially this variation of it, the deadlift German suplex, especially how she built it up with that big lariat. It's a perfect German suplex in the middle of the ring. A really great way for Utami to kind of get off the goose egg to get her first 2 points here. 3 3/4 stars for me, my friend.
Yeah, I agree. I think this was a good performance for Utami, a good bounce back from the surprise loss to Nagisa Nozaki. Chika Goto, again, continues to sort of find ways to lose. not necessarily having that final piece to the puzzle that she needs to get these big victories. And I think that's, that'll be the case for a while. She is still relatively fresh into her career. So it's going to be interesting to sort of be on that journey with her as she continues on. Main event then, Natsumi Showzuki and Nagisa Nozaki. Natsumi Showzuki taking the early ascendancy in Dream League, moving to 3 points. What do you think about this match, Matt?
This was an easy story to tell. You had the super aggressive babyface versus the heel that does not mind bending the rules a little bit. And considering the fact that, again, just a handful of hours earlier, she upset the tournament favorite and crowd favorite and Utami Hayashishita. So this is really Natsumi Showzuki coming out, blitzing Nagisa Nozaki. Nozaki eventually gets the advantage. She gets that brutal curb stomp. And this match just builds and builds and builds. Really good stuff. Kind of going back and forth. We see Natsumi Showzuki hitting our new favorite move, maybe in all of wrestling, buddy, that running Samato on the floor. Like, what a visual. Because when you hit in the ring, you can only go so far with the ropes. As we saw Natsumi Showzuki do in Sumo Hall, she uses the entire Sumo Hall or this entire venue to get about 100-yard dash before she properly knees you in the face, which, again, everybody wanted to see because Nagisa Nozaki is the big heel here. She hits another one in the ring. Nagisa Nozaki comes back with that running Yakuza kick for a 2 count. She goes for the ripcord knee, but Natsumi Showzuki is able to block it. She uses an inside cradle for a 2 count and then a head kick that leads to the roll up. Really good stuff here. I would have put maybe the Utami match on last because I think it would have got a bigger pop. But regardless, it's a nice thing. Natsumi Showzuki getting a win in the main event. 3 3/4 stars for me, my friend.
Yeah, it was a good match to finish out. I think if I was in charge of the booking, which obviously I'm not, I do agree with you. I think the Utami match or even the Mirai match possibly should have gone on last. I know you might not necessarily want to end on a time limit draw, and I do understand that, but obviously I think that might have been the way to go. I think the big thing, Matt, that we haven't talked about is Natsumi Showzuki's brand new haircut. She has far shorter hair and genuinely makes her look even more terrifying, doesn't it?
Yeah, really good look for her and a really great way to debut with the new haircut, considering the fact that after night 1, she's coming apart with 3 points and a main event win. So, yeah, all in all, really good for somebody that I know myself, and you are a big fan of one Natsumi Showzuki. And yeah, it was new. Oh, speaking of new hair day, buddy, congratulations to Utami Hayashishita pulling the Natsupoi, where one show she's got short hair, and then I don't know if it's the tonic water in Japan, but long hair Utami Hayashishita is back. Somehow she grew her hair 4 to 5 inches in a week's time. Again, very much like Natsupoi. I don't know what's in the water over there in Japan, but someday, my man, we need to find out. We need to find out because I'm hopefully coming up in the next year or two because I'm excited to see you grow your hair out like the rock star that you are.
Absolutely. I'm going to look a member of Whitesnake by the end of my time in Japan, which is going to be amazing. We're going to come onto the podcast and it's going to be like Bon Jovi.
Hair metal, baby. We're going to be doing some Motley Crue hair metal.
Absolutely.
Poison style, too. Oh, hair metal, Stardom Cast, Marigold Standard. What else do you want, folks? We can do everything.
Exactly. Stardom Cast the musical. So
I just took a drink of water. I almost ruined my computer and my microphone with that.
The next time Marigold are in town will be on September the 8th, Sunday, September the 8th in Bolford, Toyama. This will air on video on demand. It will be live on Wrestle Universe on the 10th of September. So they are live on Sunday. It'll air on the Tuesday on Wrestle Universe. So a nice quick turnaround from Wrestle Universe. The card is as follows. Mirai Kazuna Tanaka versus Chiaki and Myla Grace. We have also got in tournament action Chika Goto versus Nori. Doesn't get any easier for Go Chika. Natsumi Showzuki versus Koki Amore. That's an interesting matchup right there. Utami Hayashishita versus Victoria Yazuki. Nanae Takahashi versus versus Misa Matsui, Miku Aono versus Bozilla. I do think that could really set the pace for Star League, especially as both of these women are the only 2 to 4 points. And then in what is presumably going to be your main event, Star League, Sari versus Mai Sakurai. Matt, what are you looking forward to there? And what are some of your early predictions as well?
Ooh, I'm going to say, wow, that's, again, you have so much great talent. So no matter which way you shake it up, every single match is going to be really good and really interesting. I'm going to say Sari and Sakurai goes to the TLD.
Wow.
Because again, we're putting all of the steam behind Mai Sakurai. Again, if she loses to Sari, it's Sari. It's one of the best wrestlers in the world. Definitely probably my top 5 or 6 for this year, which is saying something. Consider the quality wrestling we're getting from all sorts of wrestling companies. But I'm going to say Sakurai is able to take Sari to the TLD. Victoria Yuzuki and Utami, that's an interesting one because, again, we're building up Victoria Yuzuki. She was the only one that pinned Julia on that gauntlet. Again, as you said last week, it may mean nothing. It may mean everything. That's going to be interesting considering the fact she has that rolling arrow and she can shock you with the pin there. Does Utami go 1-2 on her first 3 matches? It's a possibility. Some really, really good stuff. And then we've got Nori and Go Chica.
That's correct. Yeah, it doesn't get any easier, does it?
It's really, from a physical standpoint, Nori might be the hardest. And again, I've only seen her 3 matches. She might be the hardest hitter in this entire tournament, which is saying something when you have an Utami, a Mirai, and Miku Aono. So yeah, really interesting stuff there. And then you have Miku Aono and Bozilla, rematch of the finals of the for the Dream Star, for the white belt, the wonder, or not the wonder belt, but the pure white belt. My guess would be Bozilla gets a win there, and then you can kind of run that match back for the pure white belt. That's the way to go. But yeah, a lot of interesting stuff there. How about you, partner? What do you think? Do you think I'm absolutely crazy saying that Mai Sakurai takes Sari to the TLD?
I definitely don't think she wins. I don't think Sari is losing her first match in the tournament. I'd be very, very surprised if that happens. It's a possibility. I'm not willing to forego any possibility at this point. I do think. I mean, I'm still of the opinion that Mai Sakurai probably won't make it to the final, but she's certainly in contention. So I don't see her beating Bozilla. I do see her beating Miku Aono. Maybe this is the second loss that ultimately ruins her tournament. And again, if you look back on that tournament and her only losses are against Sari and Bozilla, I mean, that's a pretty decent tournament, isn't it? Plus, it gives her that into the United National Championship picture as well. I would not take your eyes off of Nanae and Misa Matsui, because they had a really, really good singles match in the first couple of shows, I believe, of Marigold, where it was a passion injection match, a really good match. I wouldn't be surprised if Misa Matsui manages to get a roll-up victory over Nanae. Do not count out that European clutch. I would be very surprised, but I do think it could happen. Yuzuki and Utami, I think, is going to be great. Miku Aono and Bozilla, I think that's going to be really good as well, and I think it'll be helped by having the 15-minute time limit as well. I don't think it'll go that far, but I think we're going to have a really, really heavy-hitting match in a condensed period, so I'm more than up for that. Matt Turner, unless there's anything else you wish to discuss, my man, we've still managed to go almost an hour and 45, so that's impressive considering we only had 2 shows to talk about. But is there anything else you would like to share with the fans?
Well, I think it's time for a gaze, don't you think, buddy?
I think it might be, my friend. It's time to gaze at Julia.
Yes, our newest segment, our Gaze at Julia, as Julia is now part of the NXT roster. This past Saturday, Roxanne Perez was successful yet once again at retaining the NXT Women's Championship, and then the lights go off, who comes in but the debuting Julia? Yes, wrestling's worst kept secret. Really cool package for her. Everybody knew who she was. They were chanting for her name. Really cool how she has the cherry blossoms on her Titantron. Kind of a nice little tribute there to the late great Hana Kimura. And basically just kind of gets in Roxanne's face, as we know we were building towards this match between Roxanne Perez and Julia. And then we fast forward just 2 days later to NXT, our go home segment. Roxanne Perez comes in the ring. She cuts this really great promo. Roxanne Perez is a fantastic heel promo, basically saying that all these wrestlers, they're all saying these Roxanne Perez, they want to see Dream Match versus X, Dream Match versus Y. The fact that everybody on the main roster is afraid of her. The fact that she's going to be breaking the records of NXT of Asuka and Io Shirai, Io Sky. And she said there is nobody, no Japanese, or she said basically points out that she's going to be breaking the record of these two great Japanese wrestlers in NXT by having the longest championship reign, women's reign of all time, basically pointing out that she wants Julia to come out because she's talking about great Japanese talent. Everybody's chanting for Julia. The lights shut off. Everybody thinks it's going to be Julia, but it's Chelsea Green. Wow, good one. Chelsea Green comes out, and as great as Roxanne Perez's promo was, and it was a serious promo and really driving home to the point that she's going to break all these records, and it doesn't matter who they bring in from Japan because she's going to beat them as well. Chelsea Green comes out and cuts more of a comedic promo. Everybody's chanting and cheering for Chelsea Green, and she's trying her damnedest to get over as a heel. She even says as she's walking to the ring, she goes, "Oh, what's that stench? Everybody over here in this section, it smells like BO and something else." I forget what she said. And she even said it's called deodorant, people. And after she does that dig, they start chanting for her even more. So she comes out, cuts this great promo, gets in Roxanne Perez's face. The lights shut off once again, and it's Julia. And then very much to the kin of poor Chelsea Green of taking the Freedom dropkick into the face that's been gifted to death, but we never get tired of seeing it on Twitter and everywhere else, that the Roxanne Perez basically bails out. Julia hits a big forearm and the G-trigger. Roxanne Perez then gets in Julia's face, and then Julia says, "Me, you, CW," which means NXT is going over to a bigger, a worldwide network that can be seen everywhere on the CW. I believe October 1st is their debut show. So October 1st, the big matchup is going to be Julia and Roxanne Perez for the NXT Championship. So really cool, Julia in NXT. They're clearly putting the rocket behind her. We've seen her the pictures with Shawn Michaels, all the different backstage photos that they're doing. They clearly know that Julia is a huge, huge star, and they're treating her like one, considering the fact, again, they're going on the CW network, and the first match that's announced, the big match announced, is Julia, what may or may not be her debut. So excellent stuff. And the fact that she's wrestling Roxanne Perez is kind of like a dream match, my friend, because Roxanne Perez has really been holding up the NXT brand, not only on the women's side, but all together. In my opinion, I think she's the best wrestler on that NXT roster. And that NXT roster is really, really good. Don't get me wrong. And again, you got freaking Julia coming in. So super excited for that match, and super excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, and you consider that you've still got Stephanie Vaca to come in, you've still got Delta to come in as well. That is going to be one stacked roster, and Julie being at the forefront of that is really pleasing to see. Really pleasing to see. It's been a real pleasure to watch her journey throughout Stardom, throughout Marigold, and then obviously on to the US. It's going to be very, very exciting. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to an end of our latest episode of the Marigold Standard. Join us next week when we will be reviewing that third show from the Dream Star, oh my God, Sakurai's Dream Star Grand Prix Night 2, both at Toyama with Sari and Mai Sakurai, we think, in the main event. Join us next week for that. In the meantime, don't forget to check out the website, www.thestardomcast.com. If you haven't already subscribed to the podcast, please think about maybe giving us a 5-star review and a comment. It really does help the podcast out. You can find us on Patreon as well, patreon.com/the Stardomcast, where you can listen to all of these episodes early and ad-free for as little as $1 a month. You can find us on Twitter at Marigold podcast. You can talk to me on Twitter as well at @RealRobGoodwin. Matt Turner, sign us off, good sir.
Absolutely, folks. Questions, comments, anything you need from me, Matt Turner OF on the Instagram and or the Twitter is the best way to get a hold of me. If you want to shoot me an email, the only way to get a hold of me via the email system is the stardomcast22@gmail.com. Folks, don't forget that if you are in the Northeast area and if you're going to the Colossal Con Comic-Con, step into room, I believe, number 4 for the wrestling event, and we will see if I can get Andy Header to do the Azumi Sushi. I think it's going to happen, Rob. I really, really do. Azumi is his favorite Stardom wrestler. I think that we're going to get Andy to do the Azumi Sushi. But regardless, folks, we greatly appreciate your support. Can't do it without you. It's like I always say, it's just not my podcast. It's our podcast. Because when we're all together and everyone's different, everyone's special.